This video is proudly sponsored by DigimonCard.io for all your Digimon card, deck building, deck list, card pricing, and discussion needs.
Hey everyone, Eggman here with another video, and today we have a top 16 breakdown for Play TCG's Nishi Fest Regional that happened this past weekend. There were 7 rounds with 201 players, with a Beelstarmon taking it at the end of the day. So real quick, if it's not obvious, I'm on the road right now. I did not go to this event, but I'm on the road right now. So sorry if there's any quality issues with this video, but big shoutouts to Play TCG for not only running it, but also giving myself and EagleX the list for this event, especially EagleX for doing all of the compiling of the data and everything that you see on the spreadsheet. All I did was the pie chart. So big shoutouts to both of them, and especially EagleX for this. So make sure to follow them on YouTube, as well as Primitive for not only being at the event, but for recording some matches, including the finals. So make sure to check that out on the, in the link in the description, are also linked in this document, which is also linked in the description. So big shoutouts to both of them. But again, Play TCG and EagleX, I would not be able to make this video, especially on the road, without their contribution. So super duper appreciate that. So anyways, going into our breakdown, we do have 7 Grandis, which is quite high, 4 Cross Hearts, which is going to be quite high in like a week, 2 Metal Guru X, 1 Beelstar, which did win again, Alphamon, as well as a Magna X. So pretty interesting diversity in this, especially the Grandis part. I know that it's been getting a lot more popular in the BT10 format. It was obviously on the radar for BT9, and it's just interesting that it did get like a couple tiny tools, but it's just that it's a good kind of pick against a lot of the other decks that are really popular right now, and it's just steamrolling off that, which is interesting. And also, again, EagleX did make the archetype breakdown in the bottom left here too. So it looks like a bunch of Cross Hearts, Metal Gurumon X, but also Jessamon and Guilemon, and neither of them really performed this top 16. And this is another tournament that this seems to be the case where, these red decks are really popular and people want them, but and are playing them obviously, but they're just having a hard time getting that consistency for their top 16. So also Security Control didn't get top 16, which is a little interesting for this too. But if I'm not going to go through any of the others, if you guys want to see any of these topping lists, they are there. And it's just interesting data. So again, appreciate it from EagleX. But that is going to be it for that. We're going to go into our top deck breakdowns, starting with Dashiell's first place Beelstarmon over here. So we do have this list. It is Dashiell's, and it's just a good like Beelstar list, honestly. Nothing super crazy. There is the Sister Mont Blanc just to have the discard and draw 2, which is interesting there. But that's really it. I think that's the spiciest thing from this list. There's obviously the one Ogremon too, but it's just a solid Beelstarmon list. Obviously going more into the blue engine with it too, and having some blue sources from the Tamers. I am surprised that they're not playing the Gabu X, which can go on top of the regular Gabumon. Not only to just have the inheritable life or the on deletion for it, but just having another blue source. That's the only thing from this list that I would say that strikes me as like maybe a bit peculiar, but honestly, you still get that with the Sister Mont Blanc, and you don't have to find specifically a purple Goblin from that, which is probably just more consistent for an event like this. And just some interesting choices. So obviously, Calling from the Darkness is going to get hit starting next week, so you can only run one of those, which does kind of stink in the sense that it is a really good way to recycle your Beelstarmons. There are some other ways, of course. We have like the matte purple tamer. We also have some Impmons too, so I think there are some ways, but I think it will be missing this at 2 or 3 as much as it's used to. But also just being able to bounce stuff without deleting it from Kakata's Breath and the Decker Ray is it's so good. Like there's just no protection for it, especially like the only thing is like black, and I think that's kind of getting some cycle out as well. So being able to get some really good effects on there, and then obviously we do have like Nailbone for some extra effects from that. But I don't know, just super solid list. I highly recommend checking out the finals as well. I think you would see some appreciation for the list, as well as kind of how it's been performing and playing against meta, especially since spoilers, it was against Metal Gurumon X, and also spoilers, if they got first place, that means they won. But again, very solid match, and congrats again to Dashiell there. Next up, we have Kevin Ambler's second place Grandis list here, and I kind of mentioned it a little bit earlier, but there's not a lot of new tools that it did get in BT10. The biggest one is is just a Kuwagamon rookie here that you can Digivolve for 0 instead of having to pay for 1. Obviously, the inheritable is worse because you don't get that security tech plus 1, but you get, I think, a lot inherently just from the lines that you're doing there. And that's really it. Pommelmon is also a pretty good rookie for what you're doing. It does interact with a lot of things. Stingmon's a really interesting level 4. But it's just a really solid list that if you see your chain, you go up it. Not a lot of people are playing a lot of kind of security hate for this unless it's just their entire archetype, right? Unless you're security control or maybe some builds of Mastamon, right? There's not, most decks just aren't running stuff that can get over or like interact with this 4 checks in 1 turn and then just seeing if they can survive from there. So again, I think just a lot of good meta things going on in a list like this. I don't have a lot to say more than that, unfortunately, because it is just Grandis and at the end of the day. And we've been seeing that for a couple months, but again, it's something that I think you should respect in the meta game. And it is a matchup that you will have to adjust to or have a way to beat if you want to be competitive in a format like this. So again, congrats again to Kevin there. And next up, we do have the 3rd place Melga X by Jose Benitez. And this is I do enjoy the spice. I do enjoy the spice in this build. There's not a lot, but there are a bunch of nice one-ofs that are cool. We have a single Betamon. We have one of the classic, which we normally see. But we have a Magna X, which, again, Magna X has just been appearing in just random blue lists all the time. And it's just solid, which is really cool. Especially since you are running X antibody, which you do need for one of its effects, so that is important there. We do have the Death X one. We have the Omnimon X antibody, which is good there too, especially since you are running again the X antibody option, and you can use the effects with the Magna X. So I really do like this card. The Omni X is, I would say, a hard consideration for me. For any Metal Guru on X, I think it's something that you kind of need, and I think it's more important than Blitz Omni because this just can help you against a matchup like Mastamon, like Security Control, that can have some weird stuff in their security that you can just remove without even proccing, which is really nice to do. So, a single Ice Wall, single Blue Mem Boost, 2 Hammer Sparks, a Kikaitis Breath, and just from there. So obviously we've been seeing a lot of Metal Guru on X, and I'm still ready for it to get something to happen of it, for it just to fade away. But I do appreciate the creativity here by Jose, and I'm happy to see that a list like this is a top placing list in a tournament like this too. So congrats again to Jose there. And next up, we do have the 4th place Crossheart by Salvador Rosas, and again with a tiny spice. We got a Blinding Ray, boom, bam, unique deck list, but obviously, I've been, we got the ban list. We're gonna have Cross 4, which is pronounced Cross 4, which I got corrected for the first time after playing this game for like 2 months with all this stuff. But whatever, Cross 4, here it is, and it's getting down to 1. It's gonna be Cross 1 times 1, and it's just, I don't know, like all these lists are pretty much the same, and I think that's the one big thing about maybe an archetype like this. And the best thing about being hit is that it just opens the door of creativity, not only for archetypes, but just the fact that like this list is more or less the same for most people. I think there's just a wiggle room on like a couple of ratios of tamers and a couple for options, but it's just by and large the deck is almost always the same every time, and that's pretty I don't know. I don't appreciate seeing that as a content creator, as a deck builder, as someone who plays the game, and hopefully it creates the diversity we want. But I also don't think there's anything wrong with running it, especially there's just so many people who built this deck only to say that, oh, it's going to get hit. So play it while you can. And congrats again to Salvador on their 4th place finish with it there. Next up, we do have our Magnamon, which is David Hernandez's 8th place list here. We did see a Magnamon take 1st place the last play TCG regional, and it looks a little bit different than this one. Some key choices: 1 Babydollmon instead of the Demi V. Digi-Egg there. This can help you just draw almost like this should have been like the first one they made, and then Upamon's like the egg they power crept. It's so hard to power creep Upamon, because you just get so much draw consistently with this, which is, it's just crazy. And then VMons, every person who plays any kind of armor is going to have their own ratio of VMons. They're going to swear by it. They're going to say everyone else is wrong. So this is David's mix here. But then 4 of the Magna, 3 Flame, 4 of Lydramon, a Lobomon, a single Paleodramon, a Chimeramon, and then the X antibody with 2 of the Death Xmon, and then choosing Blitz Omni instead of the Jesmon GX, which I do really like the Jesmon GX, but I don't know if it's just because it's flashy and that I pulled 2 of them and I wanted to run them, but I think Omnimon is definitely a great choice too, being able to get one more swing in a case, in a deck that normally just needs that one more swing. And then Death Xmon and Martin, when I've interviewed Martin last time, I really do think he's said it best, where it's just like the best thing about this deck is that you're really good at stalling out until you get Death Xmon, and then you can just kind of steamroll from there because your opponent's going to have a hard time creating value, and you get so much value off the stuff you do in this deck, and you're kind of hard to die sometimes, especially with the X antibody Magdramon. It not only like stops some attacks, but it means that you recover when you hit it, and then you have an 11k in security that you sometimes protecting you. It's just super solid. And then like Megadeth is still a great card. Being able to play it on like without having to expend any like color resources or anything else, I think is very strong. So, anyways, congrats again to David for bringing Magna into BT10 as well, making another top 16 finish there. That is cool to see. Next up, we do have our final deck list of the day. It is Michael Wynn's Alphamon, which did just sneak in on 16th place. I've covered a lot of Alphamon since it got its re-release in BT9, essentially. And these are pretty much what these lists are looking like since release. Again, like it's the same thing as Crossheart, where for better for worse, most of the decks look very, very similar, based on the fact that they give you the perfect lines for everything out the box, and it's more of a playstyle thing than a deck building thing. But some choice options here is the one of Greymon, using the only 2 of the Alphamon interesting there, and then 1 of the Secret Rare one there. Breath of Gods and Kongu are pretty common. Black Memory Boost is very good for what you're doing, and then Tamers at your own choices and ratios there, but 1 Coda, 2 Yuji, and then 4 Cool Boy there. But that is going to be it for this video. Again, thank you guys so much for watching, especially if you made it this far. I know that, again, I'm on the road, so sorry the audio quality is a little lower than usual, as well as no face cam, but I hope you guys did appreciate this. And big shout outs again to Play TCG. Make sure to check out their website and their socials, as well as following and subscribing to EagleX and Primitive on YouTube as well. So that's going to be it for me. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll catch you all next time.